I love giving people tools so that they can succeed for the rest of their life in their health. So my job to instruct you guys is literally to teach you so that you don't ever have to go on a diet again. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. So the first thing I want everybody to say is scales are for fish. Right. I think we can use a little more gusto.
Scales are for fish.
Absolutely, scales are for fish. So that is really a mandate of mine, that scales are for fish. And so really, in a little tight, media clip, it's really just saying that it's not about what you weigh. It has nothing to do with the scale. And so the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's one of the only business models that actually makes more money when you fail. Did you ever think of that? And so it's set up to fail. So my huge job in my life is to really give people the tools so that they don't have to spend useless amounts of money on stuff that doesn't work. Okay, so really quick question. Who here has ever spent money on diet stuff? Right? Yeah. Or spent money on a book to follow a certain diet or to do a certain thing. So people spend millions and millions of dollars. So it's really interesting, I think, because not enough people talk about the importance of doing what's right for you. So how many people are on Earth, on planet Earth? Does anyone know?
Over 7 billion.
Yes! Hooray! You get a prize.
Thank you.
Okay, so her answer, my question was, how many people are on Earth? And her answer was 7 billion. So did you know then that there are actually 7 billion different ways to eat? So I want you to really digest that for a second, because you have to understand how unique you are. So you are all so unique. Everyone is so different and so unique. So that means your metabolic needs and your foods that you need are different. But it takes a lot of time sometimes to figure out what's best and what's unique for you, doesn't it? So my job is to kind of guide you along the way, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm going to be covering the 2 main body types. So everyone, it's going to be an apple or a pear. But we're going to take a quiz today so that you can find out what your body type is. So we're going to do that a little bit later, but I'm going to teach you some of the tips and the tricks today. So you're going to find out if you're an apple or a pear. So did you know that your body tells a story? Mm-hmm. I want you to think about that. So we hold stress in our bodies. Where we carry weight tells a story. Our fingernails tell a story. Our eyes tell a story. Our teeth tell a story. But you have to have the eyes to see it. So my job as a nutritionist, I've been a nutritionist now, can anyone guess for a Live the Smart Way, Kathy Smart cookbook? Someone guess how long I've been a nutritionist? Yes! Ding, 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 20 years. Very good. It's very interesting. There's a lot of people out there saying a lot of stuff that have absolutely no idea what they're saying, nor do they have the education to back what they're saying. And the internet has created this monster of information of people just making noise. The problem with that is your health is incredibly important. And if you don't know who you're listening to, you could end up sick. So I'm very, very diligent about ensuring that people, when I give them information, it's good information, it's true information, and I have the education to back it up. So I'm going to tell you really quickly a little bit about me, because I actually cannot stand talking about myself, but because I want you guys, when you go to a lecture and you're listening to health advice, I want you to make sure you know who you're listening to. Do your research. Find out about them, because they're telling you stuff to set you up many times to buy something. So you need to be very diligent to know who you're listening to. So look, for example, I actually started in the nutrition industry really when I was 12 years old. I was, does anyone know what celiac disease is?
Yes, I have it.
There you go. So I was diagnosed, I was a really sick little kid. Is anyone in the crowd here a mom? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so I think moms change the world. It's not presidents or world leaders, it's mom. And my mom, I was such a sick kid. I had so much anxiety and really sick all the time. My mom never stopped looking for answers for why I was sick. And she brought me to a naturopathic doctor called Dr. Don Warren, who's the president of the Naturopathic College, and he diagnosed me with celiac disease. So at a very young age, my parents raised me that everyone's here on this earth for a reason. Does everybody believe that? So I want everyone to say, I am here on this earth for a reason. I am here on this earth for a reason. Yes. So my parents raised me, my parents were ministers and missionaries, that you're here on this earth for a reason, and you're here to give back somehow. So I had this mentality that I'm here to give back. So when I discovered I had celiac disease and I changed what I ate and then I changed my life, I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to teach others. So everybody say, change what you eat. Change your life. That didn't sound very enthusiastic. I don't think I'd want to change my life. Let's try that again. Change what you eat. Change your life. Perfect. So change what you eat, change your life. And so I started studying nutrition. So I went to Alive Academy, to Bastyr University. Then I got into the Canadian fitness professional circuit, and I was a fitness trainer, and then I became a fitness kickboxing instructor. I just love to learn. And in fact, I'm going to be teaching at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition upcoming in the fall. But I myself am going back to school and taking courses in Ayurveda, actually, which is very cool, because I believe an individual should always keep up their education. Wouldn't you agree? It's very, very important. And I'll tell you especially why in this industry. There's so much money to be made in this industry that people, when someone is sick, they're vulnerable. Did you know that? So when someone is sick and someone comes to them with maybe an answer, they'll spend any amount of money. Wow, this powder is going to help me. Hallelujah. So the problem with that is when there's a lot of money to be made, there's also sometimes corruption comes in, right? Wouldn't you agree? So you have to really decipher for yourself. Is this person saying this is the answer because they actually happen to sell the answer and they're going to make money on the back end? So be very, very leery of that, like a lot of multi-level marketing groups, right? I'm not putting anyone down in any way, shape, or form, but someone comes to them with a problem, they have a solution and they sell it to them. So my whole point of all this, know who you're talking to. So I've had 20 years experience in both in the nutrition sector and also over 14 years in the fitness sector. So my main role actually now is to tell the truth. So my job is to really watch the trends and really make sure that things are staying on point, that people aren't going off the rails and trying to sell all kinds of products. So I'm really excited because Ottawa happens to be my hometown, because I've traveled all around the world presenting on this exact topic. It's actually one of my most famous topics. And I went on Canada AM 2 years ago, actually, and I declared in that first week of January that diets don't work. And I talked about eating according to your body type. Are you an apple or a pear? Well, that was fun. I got so many people talking to me and all the like, oh my God, what you said made so much sense. Thank you so much. So I actually teach this to people and they never have to diet again because you find out what works for you. Males, 40 inches and below, females 35 inches and below, and again this is according to the World Health Organization. And the reason why is this: for every inch that you are over in your waist circumference, your risk for diabetes, cancer, heart disease really increase. And the reason that is if you store belly fat here, that's where all of your vital organs are. So it suffocates those vital organs. Fat is toxic. Did you know that? Fat is toxic. It's not just that you don't like that it looks like fat. It's actually toxic. So when you have fat, specifically in the abdominal area, it's very toxic to your whole system. So that's why an individual can be at a healthy weight, but if they have a tummy and their waist circumference, if they're female, it's over 33 inches, or for male, it's over 40 inches, they're not going to feel good at all. So the only measurement that you need for learning how to eat if you're an apple or a pear is what? Yes, your waist circumference. It's the only things you need. So if you're going to start eating and thinking like this, most humans need measurables. This is a measurable that is important so that you can start to chart your success. Because one of the things that can be frustrating, raise your hand if this has ever happened to you, you're eating healthy and you're exercising and you gain weight. Right? Right? But what if you had taken your measurements and you started eating right and exercising right and you lost 8 inches? Even though you had maybe gone up 2 pounds, wouldn't you not care? Bingo. This is 1 pound of muscle, and this is 1 pound of fat. When you have 5 pounds of fat, it looks like this. When you have 5 pounds of muscle, it's like this. So when you start exercising right and you start working out, you're actually going to shrink. But you might not notice a difference in the scale. But this will only happen if you eat right for your shape. So for every pound of muscle that you have, you burn 50 to 100 calories just by sitting on your seat. For every pound of fat, you only burn 4 calories. So if you start eating right, exercising right, and you put on 5 pounds of muscle, you will burn 250 to 500 calories just while sitting there. That's the equivalent of running a 5K. Wouldn't you rather just put on muscle instead of having to run a 5K every day? I sure would. And I do. If you put on 5 pounds of fat, you only burn 20 calories. So here is the coolest part of this. When you learn how to eat right and just build muscle, and eat right for your metabolism, you actually never have to diet again because you change your body composition. So when you go on a diet, I'm not going to put any diet down, but I am going to talk about points, but I'm not going to say the diet. Here's the problem with a lot of the point-based, calorie-based diets. The lower calorie foods are not high in protein. Thus, you don't build muscle. When you don't build muscle and you don't eat enough protein to support muscle, your body actually will start eating at its own muscle. The less muscle you have, the more fat your body creates. When you diet, you go low calorie, and typically low calorie and the low point stuff is very low in protein. So what ends up happening is you start losing muscle. And when you start losing muscle, your metabolism drops, meaning you're not burning fat at a high rate. So what ends up happening, you have to eat less. So have you ever noticed, has anyone ever heard of Herbal Magic?
Yes.
Oh. So I used to work at Herbal Magic for like 2 years. I'm not saying that because I'm all proud. I did it as a case study experiment when I was 18 and 19. And 96% of the people that spent over $3,000 on those types of programs, because it was so much calorie reduction and garbage, 96% of them came back to the clinic, and guess what happened? They gained the weight back and more, and they could not lose it again. Has that ever happened to anyone? Raise your hands in the air.
Someone that I know, but not me.
Right? So the reason that is because people aren't being taught how to control their own metabolism, and that's where I come in. So it's the upper arms, all in the tummy. Typically they have more slender legs. Okay, their legs are more slim, but they are literally built like an apple. So larger up on the chest, large. Right? They do. They're well, and I love how I'm like doing it like this. I'm like larger in the chest. I'm an apple if you couldn't figure it out. All right? So apples, just like an apple, that's how they're shaped. So the foods that stimulate them gaining weight is actually typically the foods that they crave. And that's because their adrenal glands are exhausted. So your adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. And when they're stressed and when they're tired, It could be happy stress or sad stress. They overproduce a hormone called cortisol. So everybody say cortisol.
Cortisol.
Cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that makes you store fat all in the stomach area. So apple body shape, so I'll go apple, this will make it easy. So we'll go apple / adrenal. These people, what makes them gain weight is stress. So let that sink in for a moment. It's so true. I'll tell you a little story. So you remember I said it can be happy stress or it can be negative stress? One of a very challenging time in my life with my own weight. Here's the deal. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. Isn't that great? And you know why it's great? Because I get it. Only when you've gone through something can you understand. So I don't stand in front of you this perfect specimen of a female body. I struggle, right? And so one of the times I struggled the most was actually in a happy time with my weight. I gained, I don't like pounds and stuff, but about 20 pounds all in my stomach. I flew down to New York City to do the Dr. Oz show. And here I am, this little country bumpkin, right? Like I am. I totally am. I love that I am like that. And I'd never been to New York City. I mean, this is a huge deal for me, right? And then after that happened, you can imagine my career, right? So it snowballed of stuff. And it was all happy stuff, but it was scary. And it stressed me. And I gained weight all in my stomach. I didn't do anything different. So if you think that you're an apple body shape, your enemy is stress. So when people think of stress, they often think, oh, that person's frustrating me at work, that's stress. No. Did you know that foods can be stress? So if you're not eating the right foods for your body type, your body sees that as a stress, especially for your apples. So the foods that apples get stressed out over are the foods that overproduce cortisol, are red meats, cheeses, salty nuts. That's just fun. I know. I wrote it and it's funny, but these foods really, really create a lot of stress on the adrenals. So these are foods that you don't want to eliminate, but you want to decrease. But the foods that you want to increase are going to be whole grains. We're going to talk about exercise too, and I can talk about exercise because I'm a certified personal fitness trainer. So don't listen to exercise advice for people that haven't gone through the schooling for it, because that's how people get hurt. So it's very important. So whole grains, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Okay? So those are the foods.
So as long as it's not salty nuts, that's fine.
Yeah, nuts are fine. It's the salt. And typically people who are apple body shape crave salt. And that's because their adrenal glands are so exhausted. I'm not a big, hey, everybody eat sugar person at all. I am not a fan of sugar, but sugar is negative for anybody. But it doesn't as negatively affect an adrenal person. Sorry, I'm using the technical terms. That's my bad. It doesn't affect an apple like it does the pear. That doesn't mean go haywire to eat fudge, but you really want to make sure if you're a pear, you avoid sugar. Okay? So the exercises, now this is really important. The exercises that you really want to focus on as an apple, can anybody guess what that is? So the answer is yoga. So the best exercises for your apple shape are actually the exercises people don't want to do, because your apple body shapes are very intense people typically. They're very driven. They're like, rah, I'm going to lose weight, so I'm going to run every single day and I'm going to do all of this stuff. When actually what an apple needs is to take a step back and start walking more, start doing yoga more, and basically chilling out. And I'm serious, it makes a huge difference. Yes?
What about hit and burst?
Love it. I love high intensity interval training. Yeah. Great question. So she was asking hit and burst. So hit and burst, hit is a high intensity interval training, and burst conditioning is like little bursts of, bah, I don't know why I'm stamping my foot, but bursts of energy. So yes, it is good for adrenal apples, but not if they're under a lot of stress. It's still not good. So the exercise prescription for these guys is you want to increase yoga, walking, and light strength training. Notice how I'm emphasizing light. Okay, and I want to explain that. So I had a client who was a very interesting client. You get to meet all types of people, right? This client is super driven type of A type of personality, and they want to lose weight. And so they started lifting really heavy weights, right? Because they read their friend did this and that was the best thing ever. Well, guess what happened? She gained weight, not muscle weight, but what happens with an apple body shape, if they lift too heavy of weights, they actually overstimulate their adrenal glands, and they end up overeating. They get, the heavy weightlifting will actually stress out their body. I am one of the biggest supporters of people doing strength training. I love it, it's fantastic. But just make sure you're doing the right type and not too heavy if you're an apple. And then usually the next question in the audience is, well, what is too heavy? Did someone think of that question? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's too heavy? Well, depending on if you have a rotator cuff injury or if you have a knee injury, may I suggest this? I would start with 5 pounds, right? 5 pounds. You can do a lot with 5 pounds, and you want to focus on higher repetition, lower weight. This is just your apples I'm talking about. So some of the other exercises that are really good if these individuals do have a rotator cuff injury or if they do have a knee injury is aquafit. Again, nice and relaxing, right? So very, very important to do the right kind of exercise and to eat right. And again, I'm going to be giving you guys a link where you guys can take a quiz to actually find out exactly, like I have an entire questionnaire and it's like in depth, because when you do a lecture, it's a little bit harder to do quizzes, but you're still going to get to do it, don't worry. Okay, so yes, please ask questions. Please ask questions. I like questions.
What about flying?
Amazing for apples. Amazing for apples, right? And if you're unsure of what your body type is, may I suggest asking me? This is a great opportunity to ask. I get paid a lot of money typically for people to ask these questions. You are here because of Awesome Natural Food Pantry. Take advantage of it. All right, so we talked about apple. Here's a few little suggestions. Let's talk a little bit about the supplements for an apple. I'm not a huge supplement person. I repeat, I'm actually not a huge supplement person, and that's very different as a nutritionist to be that way. Because if I was, I could make a lot of money telling people to take these supplements. But I really truly believe in the power of just real food. So everyone say just real food.
Just real food.
Right? So that's not to say that there is not a time and a place for supplements. For example, I take iron. I need it. But if you can get it from your food, I would suggest getting it from your food, because the nutrition in food is more bioavailable than in a capsule that's been generated in a plant. So a very, very good supplement for your adrenals is bee pollen. Bee pollen. So bee pollen is filled with all kinds of B vitamins, and it's incredibly excellent to support people under stress and boost their immune system. If you have seasonal allergies, it's actually good to start taking bee pollen, but it has to be local bee pollen because it will help build your own natural immunity against hay fever and different allergies. So we spent a lot of time getting to know apples. Let's switch gears a little bit and get to know the pears. Sound like a plan? All right, so your pear, this is what a pear looks like. So with a pear, you're slimmer on the top and you're bigger at the bottom. Fantastic butts. Like, do you know like a Beyonce butt? Do you know what I mean? No, I'm serious. Yeah, that's like awesome. So smaller at the top and like, bah, it's great. That's a pear. So if you carry your weight in your thighs, if you carry your weight in your buttocks, if you carry your weight mostly in this bottom area, you are a pear. Now pears, I'll tell you some of the symptoms of pears. They have cellulite. If you don't know if you have cellulite, you don't have cellulite. Because cellulite looks like, you know when you like take your fat and you smush it together?
You get dimples.
You get dimples, right? Like, you know, we all do it, come on.
Like an orange peel.
It's like an orange peel. And don't feel bad about it. Olympic people, Olympic trainers, people in the Olympics have cellulite. So, cellulite is very typical of a pear individual, okay? So if you have cellulite on the thighs, more than likely you are a pear. And strength training is actually the most important exercise for your pear. So, pear body types have usually bigger butts and bigger thighs. Thus, they think they should start running more. Hooray, I'm going to run forever and I'm going to have the slimmest legs and butt ever. Not at all. So, pear body shapes need to focus on strength training because they need to build their muscle back up. And the reason they don't want to do too much cardio is because usually an individual that's a pear body shape, they struggle with their, does anyone know what they might struggle with? Guess. It's a gland around here. Yes! I love how Tetra's in the back. She's like, you're so cute. I'm like, I know she knows. I can see her. Your thyroid. So usually a person that's a pear body shape will struggle with their thyroid. So, right? But many times it's not diagnosed yet. So the values of thyroid in Canada and the US are very, very different. So many times in Canada we have amazing doctors, right? But they're overwhelmed and they're overworked and it's easy to miss stuff. And it's not even that they miss it, it's their values, our values in Canada to pick out thyroid disease haven't changed all yet, right? So if you're suspicious that you might have a thyroid issue, I'll tell you some symptoms of it, all right? And it's usually a pear person is struggles with some of these things. So they're tired, they're like not just tired, but like they can't function. They also are cold all the time, freezing cold all the time. They can be moody, but not moody like grumpy pants, more like sad moody. Okay, they're very weepy and they crave sugar. Like all they want to do is eat brown sugar. Like they could just eat sugar. And I'm going to explain to you why. Your pear body shape, because their thyroid has been compromised or tired out, it needs little hits of sugar throughout the day just to function because they're so exhausted. So your pear body shape, lives on caffeine. If they don't have a coffee, they cannot function. So pear body shapes, you want to focus on protein, 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 and more protein. So everyone say protein.
Protein.
Okay, so you want to have protein at every meal. So breakfast, lunch, supper. You need to ask yourself, where is my protein? Okay? It's really for all the body types, but especially for our pears. So some of the examples of proteins that are good for pears are red meat, chicken, fish, salmon. They don't do very well being a vegan or a vegetarian. They don't. If you're a vegetarian or vegan for religious reasons, then please respect those reasons. But if you're doing it to try to feel better and lose weight, I would suggest eating like whole protein. So if you're never sure what protein is, I learned this from Paul Chek. Paul Chek's an awesome dude, really into health and fitness. So this, I can't take credit for this because this is his. If you're ever wondering what protein is, just think to yourself, it's anything that's ever had a mother. Forever and ever, you'll never wonder what protein is. Now, there's other proteins like nuts and beans, but for the pear, they want to focus on those, so whole proteins like that, okay? Another thing that our pears do not want at all in their life, it is very toxic, and it's not just because I'm celiac, it's just the truth, is gluten. So gluten is a protein found in wheat products, and it inhibits the thyroid hormone. So an individual, if they're a pear body shape and they're eating wheat products, they're kind of counterbalanced, it's counterproductive, right? So very, very important. So they do very well eating more protein, almost more paleo, and I'm not like a big paleo hooray person, but more along those lines of eating. So example, they sit down for supper and they will have chicken or red meat or fish and some quinoa and some dark leafy greens, right? So that's a beautiful supper for your pear, all right? So the exercises for a pear that you really want to focus on is strength training, right? Remember, strength training, so it's protein and strength training. And reduce cardio. So when they do cardio maybe 2 times a week with high intensity interval training. If you're unsure what that is, high intensity interval training is you do a short burst of energy and then you recover. When you increase your heart rate and then decrease it, increase your heart rate and then decrease it, it really gets your circulation going. Okay, it's really good for the circulation. Because a lot of times exercise, people always focus on exercise like, hooray, I'm going to look super hot in a bikini. That's ridiculous. You might, but really, exercising, we're built to move. We're supposed to move. So when you exercise, it increases your circulation, it gets your blood flowing, it's good for your skin, it's good for everything. So pears shouldn't be long distance runners running for 2 hours doing a marathon. They will feel like garbage. After you exercise, I want you to ask yourself a question. It's very, very important. Ask yourself, how do I feel? If you don't feel freaking amazing, it's not the exercise for you. You shouldn't begrudge your workout. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's sometimes a hesitancy to like actually get up and do it, but after, like, you shouldn't not like it, because as humans, we are attracted to things we like. So if you love, name some of the exercises you like. Yoga, walking, do that. Swimming, what are some other things? Aquafit, bicycle riding, do what you love. All right, do what you love, you have to, because that's a lifestyle as opposed to a diet. But just make sure if you're a pear, throw in some strength training in there. So I would recommend 20 minutes, 3 times a week of strength training. It doesn't have to be a lot. Same with your apple body shape. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can even just be body weight exercises. If things that I'm saying to you, for example, you're a pear and I'm telling you to eat more red meat, but when you eat red meat, you don't feel good, listen to your body, don't listen to me. But understand the basic principles of it. So the basic principles of eating for a pear is focusing on your protein and reducing gluten. So if you don't feel good on red meat, focus on the other proteins.
I've been gluten-free for years.
Amazing. Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm glad she asked that question, because here's the thing. Anytime anyone says, this is the way that you need to eat, and you eat that way and you don't feel good, did you know that you know better than that piece of paper, or you know better than that person telling you? Because your body knows. When you eat something, you should feel awesome. You should feel full of energy. So never follow something if it doesn't feel good for you while you're eating it. It's really, right? It's like, oh, you never thought of that. Our bodies have their own wisdom, and did you know that we're built to thrive, and we're also built to heal? Did you know that if you give your body the right tools, you can heal? That's pretty profound. Like, why aren't you excited? I'm super excited about that. I think that's amazing. It's amazing. We just have to give it the right tools. We're born as a certain dominant type. So if you're not sure, think to yourself, when I gain weight, do I first gain it in my stomach or my legs? If the answer is stomach, you're apple. If the answer is leg, you're pear. What happens if you don't eat and move the way you should for your unique body? You start burning out the gland that you need help with, and you start burning out and crossing over into the other body type. So some people, they predominantly were born as an apple, but yet they didn't take care of themselves for years, and they did the Dr. Bernstein's diet, or they did the Dr. McDonald's diet, or they did whatever diet, and it was the worst thing for them. So you start burning out those other glands. So go back to the basics and think to yourself, when I first started gaining weight, where did I first gain it? So you know the answer, I don't. So do you know the answer? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the body type that you start eating and moving for. And in time, when you heal that, it automatically heals the other. Oh, what do I think of protein powders? Well, we're not sponsored by a protein powder company. I wouldn't speak for a sponsored protein powder company. Okay, great question. Ready for it? I prefer real food. The end. However, I'm going to do a big however. Here's the thing. I used protein powder this morning because I was a little bit rushed for time, and the benefit of me having protein and some greens outweighed me not eating. So what I choose then, if I am going to go that route, because the benefit of having that protein powder outweighs me not eating because I was busy, I choose plant-based protein powders. So because that's what I feel good on, right? So and then if sometimes I actually don't even always use protein powder. I prefer to use hemp seeds, like 4 to 6 tablespoons of hemp seeds. You'll get a super huge hit of protein, and you're not eating something processed. The problem with protein powders, get ready for this because this is fun. The problem with protein powders is it's a dehydrated food product. So it dehydrates the body. So oftentimes people that take too much protein powders, they end up with like what I call muscle man poops. And that's because, no, I'm serious. It's very dry and bumpy. Remember what I do for a living? This is what we talk about all the time, especially me. Because you can tell a lot about a person's digestion by what they eliminate. So it's very dry and hard to pass. That's painful. Oftentimes it's because someone's taking too many protein powders. So if you don't eat enough protein, what ends up happening is your blood sugar is unstable. So let me put my back to you, which is really hard for me to do. And okay, so when you get up in the morning, you want to eat within 1 hour of waking up. And you want to have 25 grams of protein. Why? Because it will stabilize your blood sugar, increase your metabolism, and stop you from eating, craving sugar at 8 o'clock at night. All right? So if you wake up in the morning and you are hungry, that's good. If you're not hungry, you should just eat anyway, within 1 hour of waking up. If your blood sugar can be like this, up and down, all day. So when you eat, your blood sugar goes up. What goes up must come down. Okay? When you eat again, your blood sugar, and what goes up must come right. So every time that your blood sugar dips, that's when you start to store belly fat. Because when your blood sugar dips, it's one of the most stressful things on the body. You get tired, you get hangry, that's like you're hungry and angry and you hate everybody, and all you need to do is shove some food in your mouth. right? So what goes up must come down, and it's in these ups and downs that you crave sugar. And you're craving sugar because your body, remember I said we're built to thrive and we're built to survive. So your body is craving sugar on purpose to raise your blood sugar levels back up. But the problem with this is, if you're up and down like this all day, one of the most stressful things on the body is an imbalanced blood sugar. Right? So it's up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. It's very stressful on the body. Who here doesn't like to eat in the morning? Yeah, a lot of people. So I'm going to ask you this question. Is it because you feel sick and nauseous in the morning? Because some people, it's because they feel sick and nauseous in the morning. And that's typically because they have GERD. So they have a lot of acid that's built up. And if they feel sick in the morning, they don't want to eat. It's not the food. It's because they have GERD. Right? Or they have a hiatus hernia, so the acid kind of just builds up and stays there. Okay? But yes, it's very important to eat within 1 hour of waking up, and you want to try to have about 3/4 cup of Greek yogurt. And I say Greek yogurt because it's easy to digest. It's so easy to digest, right? And it's a nice hit of protein, done. How much protein is enough? It's actually, you have the answer to it. But I will give you a guide. Okay, so what you do is you take, now again, this is just cookie cutter rule of thumb. I am not considering your blood type. I am not considering your activity level. I'm not considering all of those things. It's just a rule of thumb. So take your body weight in pounds. Okay? Divided by 2. Okay? That's the amount of grams of protein you should have per day. And this goes for all the body types. You should really focus on doing this. Even if you just did this, it will change your life. Seriously, I'm serious. Yeah, just move more. Okay, so let's pretend you're 140 pounds. That's because I am. 140 pounds. Let's divide that by what? You guys remember?
2.
Yep. And that equals what?
70 grams.
I'm getting you guys to do it so I don't have to.
70 grams of protein.
So 70 grams of protein as a base. Okay, so that's not taking into consideration, I'm just going to use myself as an example because I know myself. So this isn't taking into consideration if I've done any strength training, if I've done any running, or if I have done any fitness kickboxing, or if I've done all the other zillion things I like to do, right? This is just a base if I'm sitting at home relaxing. 70 grams. Okay, that's nice, Kathy. Thank you so much. What does that even mean? I will tell you. So 3 ounces of chicken equals approximately 25 grams. 2 eggs. You got to switch colors. 2 eggs. Does anyone know how many grams of protein?
No.
12 grams. Okay? Total. So let's do a half a cup of Greek yogurt. Anyone know how much protein is in there? 15. Right? So we've got 25 plus 12. Let's do it the old-fashioned way. I love old-fashioned math. So that's 7, that's 12, that's 3, 4, 5, 52. And you'd probably think, oh my God, I had so much protein that day.
Not enough.
Not enough at all. Most people don't eat enough protein, especially women, because we've been, sorry guys, it's just more women, mostly guys like have enough protein. But women, because if women in a certain age bracket, and by the way, this audience is that age bracket, are programmed to think that protein equals a lot of calories. Protein equals a lot of points. A lot of people think that. The problem is, I actually don't believe in calories. And I'm going to tell you why. Because a calorie is not a calorie. May I expand? If you eat a Fudgio bar that's 80 calories and it's filled with aspartame and artificial sweeteners, right? It's 0 points and only 80 calories. But people don't take into consideration the metabolic cascade that happens in the body when you eat aspartame, when you don't eat protein, when you just eat a food that's not even a food like that. So that 80 calories, and because of the aspartame, what it does in the metabolism actually makes you store body fat and crave an additional 500 calories at night. That's why a calorie is not a calorie. But if I were to eat 2 handfuls of almonds, and oh my God, it's 200 million calories, it's not, but let's say it's a lot of calories, those are calories that are going to fuel your muscles. And what does muscle do? It burns fat. Does that make sense? So when I'm talking about how to eat for your body type, really I'm teaching you how to eat foods that will help you to create more muscle. So even if you're an apple body type, so let's do this for an apple body type. So what kind of protein should this apple body type have? Should they have red meat or chicken?
Chicken.
Very good. Eggs are good for our apple types. And this is Greek yogurt. That's good for them too. Done. Perfect. Now let's pretend this is a a pear person. What kind of protein should they have? Red meat. Very good. Eggs are good. And again, dairy, your Greek yogurt is good. Okay, so here's the deal. Is this enough protein?
No.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 3 eggs for breakfast. So does anyone thinking what about cholesterol right now?
Yeah.
I knew it. Okay, so do you guys want me to talk about this? Because it's fun.
Yes.
Did you know that eggs don't create high cholesterol? Hallelujah. So here's the deal. It's actually, cholesterol issues have everything to do with the liver. The cholesterol that, how do I say? It's 80% the cholesterol that you manufacture in your body and only 20% the cholesterol that you actually take in. So what does that mean? That means it's not high cholesterol foods that cause high cholesterol. If that were the case, no one would have high cholesterol right now with all of the, Becel stuff. It's all about sugar and refined carbohydrates and what it does in the liver. Okay, so nutshell, eat as many eggs as you want and eat them every day and celebrate it. And not egg whites. The yolk and the egg were designed for a reason. They are together for a reason. They're the perfect marriage. 90% of the nutrition of an egg is in the yolk. And there's enough lecithin in an egg that helps emulsify any cholesterol anyways. Isn't that, you guys should rejoice. Like, this is pretty awesome, I think. So we're going to increase to 3 eggs. Why don't we increase to the 4 ounces of protein, and let's do 3/4 cup of Greek yogurt. So I just bumped up. And this is without doing a workout. So I want you to take a moment and think about your own day. We're going to focus on, again, this is for any body type, because my whole goal with anybody is to get you to have more muscle, to give you the tools that you don't need to do nonsense diets, okay? So you want to squat down a little bit, and you want to hold a squat. You can go down 2 inches, you can go down 4 inches, and you hold a squat. What this is going to do is it's going to strengthen your stabilizer muscles, so your inner outer thigh, and it's going to strengthen your glute. So it's great for anybody who has terrible knee issues, because the way to strengthen a joint is to strengthen the muscles around it, okay? Again, it's good for any body type. And the reason I do the squat is many times you just have to do an exercise or do something and realize how simple that was. Like, could you guys not all do that every single day?
Yeah.
That's super duper easy. So now I want to open it up for a bit of questions about how to eat for your body type. And if you're still confused as to what body type you are, I'm going to be sending Natasha a link. Okay, I'll put it on the board for you. It's www.mybodytypediet.com. And what is there? It's actually 4 of the body types. So it's going to talk about, it's going to say adrenal, thyroid. So what's adrenal again? Apple. And what's thyroid again? Very good. So what it'll do is, because when you do a lecture like this, you want to give as many tools to your audience as possible that you can walk away with. But at the end, you are going to want to know more. If you liked it, you'll want to know more, and you'll be thinking to yourself, walking down, am I an apple or am I a pear? Like, what am I? You're awesome. But this will give you exactly what you are. All right, so it's www.mybodytypediet.com. So the question is, I noticed that you didn't talk a lot about fruit. Is there a reason? Yes. It's not that fruit is bad. I think fruit is great. But people get too caught up in what fruit is good for them and what fruit isn't good for them. Just eat fruit. Right? Our banana's good for me, our apple's good for me, our orange is good for me, our pineapple's good for me. I like to keep it really simple. If it comes from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't.
But too much fruit is bad for sugar too?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
If you couple the fruit with some protein, so for example, have a banana and have some almond butter, have an apple and a piece of cheese. The reason I on purpose didn't bring up fruit, because it's fruit for some reason seems, and also too, as a presenter, you look at your audience. So this is an audience that's gonna get confused about fruit. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. So people get caught up in bananas aren't good for you, and pineapples have too much sugar, and blah, 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 blah. We've actually complicated eating real food so much that people are afraid to eat. So eat any fruit you want. If you are diabetic or hypoglycemic, choose berries. Only because they're lower glycemic.
Okay.
Right? But let's say you have a marathon runner, I want them to have a banana. They need that potassium. So I often say to people, don't complicate things that aren't complicated. I'm not saying that to you, I'm just saying it in general. Yeah. The best rule of thumb is this. Ask yourself, is this real food? Just sit down. Is this real food? Is this a food that my great-grandmother would have recognized in the grocery store 100 years ago? This is from Michael Pollan. If the answer is no, you shouldn't eat it. If there are ingredients that you don't know how to pronounce, simple, don't eat it. We need to, as a culture, as a society, go back to the basics. So don't be too worried about the different fruits. All right. Forget body types, forget fruits, forget everything I said. Forget everything, except that you're awesome. Okay, ready? If you do not sleep, you will never be healthy or lose weight. Yeah. You could eat all the kale you want. You could do CrossFit 20 times a million times a day. You could meditate that you're levitating, and you could grow organic greens in your garden. But if you don't sleep, you never lose weight, ever. It's impossible. And this is why. Sleep is when your body does the most repair, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. That's when your subconscious mind heals. For your physical body, it's a time of recovery. I had a client when I worked for the city of Ottawa. Oh, she was a pain. And it's true, she was. I love her, but she's a pain. Very, did everything I said to a T, like anal. The type of client when you're a nutritionist that you know they do what you say. She was doing everything I said. Learn from this. And she did everything perfect. She was exercising right. She was eating smart. She wasn't losing weight. And the problem is she was starting to get mad at me. She's like, I'm doing this. It's the worst feeling. Someone's spending money for your advice and they are angry at you and you're not giving them results. It's very stressful. And I made a mistake as a young nutritionist. And the mistake was this. I was looking at everything else, but not looking at something so basic as asking my client, how are you sleeping? I always tell nutritionists now, do not learn from my mistake. So I asked her, let's call her Mrs. Boileau. Her name is not Mrs. Boileau, but let's pretend it's that. It's French. I said, how are you sleeping? She goes, it's so funny you ask me that. I can't sleep. I don't sleep. I'm in postmenopause. I'm tired. I'm grumpy, hot flashes, sweating, blah, 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 blah. I don't sleep at night. I said, I want you to go to your doctor, get your sleep tested, and then come back and see me. Well, sure enough, she was not sleeping. She had a type of sleep apnea at the time. And then she came to see me about 6 months later. She looked like a different person. I said, Mrs. Boileau, what did you do? She was, I just followed your advice and I finally started to sleep. So if you're trying everything and you're not sleeping, you need to address why you're not sleeping. That's so important. Forget everything else. It's a foundation, right? In things, we've got to start at the foundation. If the foundation isn't strong, it doesn't work. It's funny you ask sleep because I brought this book. Arianna Huffington, I have a lot of respect and admiration for this woman. I actually write for Huffington Post. If you don't know what Huffington Post is, it's fantastic. It's like a news online thing that Arianna started. Arianna was a workaholic, as you can imagine, and she burnt out because she wasn't sleeping. And she has become so passionate now of telling other people, look, I did everything right. All these accomplishments, I didn't sleep. I got so sick. So she started what's called the sleep revolution, transforming your life one night at a time. And it's not an endorsement of her book. Like, it's not like I'm getting paid to say this. I love sharing good information. I've read this book twice, and it really makes you think, because as a culture, we think, I do it myself. How are you? I'm busy. That's an awful answer. Oh, I stayed up till 5 in the morning working. I do it myself, right? But we've forgotten something, not 5 in the morning, but too late sometimes. We forgot something so basic as sleeping. So if the only thing to answer your question, it's the most important thing. Like, I have a program, it's called the Live the Smart Way program, which is an absolutely amazing program. And it's I have like 5 pillars. So when I say 5 pillars, it's the foundation to me of health. And this is one of the most important foundations, is sleep. It's like, you have to sleep. So long answer, yes. The 3 top recommendations to get a good night's sleep is this. Number 1, have a protein-rich snack before bed. An example is a tablespoon of almond butter and an apple. Because oftentimes people can't sleep because their blood sugar is unstable. Tip number 2, you want to take liquid calcium and magnesium or powdered calcium and magnesium before bed. Why? It's it's a mineral that will help relax your nervous system and allow you to rest. Okay? Tip number 3 to help you get to sleep, something really, really simple, something really basic, is lavender oil. Just smell lavender oil. What I've actually been doing recently, because I've been going through some stressful scenarios in my life, we all do, right? And I've been really trying to meditate more, which is super hard for me because I'm hyper. And it helps so much. And it doesn't have to be a long time. I'm going to show you how easy it is to relax, okay? Everyone inhale for 3 seconds. Hold it for 3 seconds. Exhale for 3 seconds. Good. Again, inhale for 3 seconds. Hold it for 3 seconds. Exhale for 3 seconds. And again, inhale for 3 seconds. Hold it for 3 seconds. Exhale for 3 seconds. How do you feel? Isn't it amazing? Breath is portable. At any moment, at any time, no matter what's happening, everything's falling around you, you can really center yourself and breathe. What happens in the body is when you take deep breaths like that, your nervous system calms down. Because when you are always rushing and we're always taking shallow breaths, your body thinks that a bear is chasing you. And so your adrenals kick out cortisol, the cortisol dumps in your stomach, you get a big tummy, you can't sleep. My whole mantra really is just to go back to basics and let it be something you love, that makes you happy, and that brings you life.